Have you ever felt a stirring inside, a quiet nudge that whispers, there is more than this moment, more than what you can see right now? And today, we're going to follow that whisper. Welcome back to Speaking from the Heart series, where we explore how the gospel and universal spiritual values meet us in our everyday decisions, challenges, and hopes. I'm grateful you're here today, because today's episode is all about living with vision and navigating change with faith, courage, spiritual groundedness, no matter where you are in life or in work. Now, before we go deeper, if you find these conversations helpful, please subscribe, share this podcast with a friend, and help us grow this heart-centered community. Now, vision is not just a corporate buzzword or a leadership slogan. It is deeply spiritual. It's something that God plants within us, shaped by our values, our experiences, and our openness to being led. In the Gospel of John, Jesus said, I have come that you may have life and have it more abundantly. Now, this isn't only just about salvation. It's about living life with courage and embracing faith. We live in a world that is fast-paced, unpredictable, and where markets change. Technology shifts, and organizations reorganize, and life transitions appear out of nowhere. But vision, real vision, helps us stay grounded while navigating these changes with clarity and hope. And what does vision really mean? Well, vision is not simply about goals. It's not just planning or forecasting. Vision is the ability to see beyond the present moment and anchor our lives in something larger than the circumstances around us. And from a gospel perspective, vision comes from aligning our hearts with God's intentions for our lives. And Proverbs reminds us, where there is no vision, the people perish. When we don't have something meaningful guiding us, spiritually, emotionally, and practically, we drift. But when we root our vision in gospel values, love, compassion, justice, and humility, we see the world differently, and we act differently, and we lead differently. Now, this kind of vision doesn't begin with asking, what do I want? It begins by asking, who am I becoming? And who is God calling me to be in this season of change? Change really is the constant companion of vision. If vision is the compass, change is the road. And sometimes the road is smooth, and sometimes it's steep, and sometimes it feels like we're walking in the dark. Jesus invited us to change constantly. Fishermen left their nets. Tax collectors left their tables. And disciples left everything that was familiar to them. Why? Well, because God's vision for their lives was bigger than the comfort of what they already knew. Change is both universal and deeply personal. Every one of us faces moments when the future feels uncertain, when what once worked no longer does, or when we feel like saying, it's time to grow, it's time to move, it's time to see beyond. Now, here's a story about a business leader who is experiencing a shift in his marketplace. Everything was changing at once. Industry regulations, customer behavior, and technology. He said it felt like the ground was shifting underneath him, and he didn't have a map. He also shared something much deeper. In his morning meditation, he said, I keep hearing, "Do not be afraid. I am with you." And that became his anchor. Instead of scrambling, he paused. He reflected. He reorganized his priorities and led his team through uncertainty with calm and integrity. The business recovered, but more importantly, it emerged healthier. And not because he predicted every change, but because he led from vision grounded in faith and not fear. Now, here's another story about a client who was at a crossroad. She had been in the same job for nearly 20 years. Steady work, good income, predictable routine. But her heart was restless. And she told me, "I feel like God is calling me to something more meaningful, but I don't know what that looks like." And so we explored her values and gifts and her purpose. She realized her deepest joy came from working with those on the fringe of society. And eventually, she transitioned into a marketing role where her sense of purpose flourished. Change didn't come because she was unhappy. Change came because the vision God placed within her was expanding. Now, let me share you a personal example. There was a time when I felt overloaded with work. I felt overcommitted. Deadlines were at my door, and I had just received more responsibilities. I felt like everything was important, which of course meant nothing really was. And one morning I read something that hit me like a brick. It was a simple phrase: "Be still and know." Know what? Know that God is God. Know that I am held. Know that I don't need to change everything or to chase everything. The moment of clarity shifted, and I approached my work with quite differently. It wasn't dramatic. It was subtle. But that small shift, grounded in vision and trust, helped me move into a healthier rhythm. You know, we live with vision through change. And here's the key practices that help us live with vision, especially during times of uncertainty. Number one, start with stillness. Stillness is not inactivity. It is spiritual listening. Jesus often withdrew to quiet places to pray, be by himself, and be with his Father. Not because he was overwhelmed, but because clarity comes with silence. Two, align vision with your values. Universal values like compassion, integrity, respect, and stewardship resonate across all cultures and beliefs. When your values are clear, decisions become easier, even in complex times. And number three, let Scripture shape your outlook. When Jesus said, "Follow me," he wasn't giving a career plan. He was pointing to a path of becoming, a way of being in the world. Scripture calls us to trust and to love and to walk in faith. And number four, bold vision with open arms and hearts. Vision gives direction, but the divine within us shapes where we want to go. And sometimes we cling so tightly to our plans that we miss the doors opening right in front of us. And number five, live today while building for tomorrow. Now, vision is future-oriented, but it must be lived in the present. So honor today, plant seeds for tomorrow, and act with purpose now. Now, there's a universal connection in all of this. Even beyond Christian circles, spiritual traditions around the world speak about vision, purpose, and transformation. There is a universal hunger for meaning, for knowing that life is not random, but connected. When we anchor ourselves in love, compassion, honesty, and hope, we are tapping into values that transcend culture and religion. And this is where gospel values and universal spiritual wisdom meet. We are called to live with intention, courage, humility, and openness, trusting that God, or the deeper wisdom guiding our lives, is moving us toward growth. Now, as we close, let me ask you, what vision is stirring in your heart today? What change are you resisting because it feels uncertain? And where might God be inviting you to trust more deeply? Change does not have to be feared when vision is grounding us. So let God guide the way, one step, one decision, one quiet moment at a time. Now, thank you for joining me today. And if this episode encouraged you, please share it, subscribe, and keep walking with us in this journey of faith and spiritual growth. I'm Richard Fontenay signing off. See you next week when we explore the real meaning of Christmas. Bye now.